Hi, this is Kathy with In Your Corner, where decision, commitment, and accountability will put you on the path to your destiny. Today, I am so excited. I have a very special guest on my show today, and this guest is my daughter. I am so excited about having my daughter on my show. I hope that the topic that we'll be discussing today will be interesting to you as well. I find it fascinating how this millennial generation is not interested in building longevity with an organization. You know, I once had a conversation with my daughter, Brittanee, and it was when I first moved into my home and met my new neighbors. During our introduction, my neighbor mentioned that she had been on her job 47 years. Okay. I thought that was awesome, whereas my daughter thought it sounded more like indentured servitude. Of course, I was mortified. You know, my daughter and I began discussing the value of not limiting yourself to one profession. Our dialogue was very enlightening because of her rationale. She said, "Mom, I've watched you work very hard to ensure that you provided the best life for your family, which made you obligated to a job. You were connected to the job because you had responsibility, so your life in turn was based around your responsibility instead of living." I found that statement interesting and inspiring at the same time. And this aligns with an article I recently read in the American Psychological Association that stated that most people spend about 25% of their adult lives working, and the reason many people remain on the job that may not be a good fit for them is related to salary and pension, which no longer exist in many companies, in addition to benefits. My daughter, on the other hand, is committed to being free from anything that would tie her down. This is funny because she recently got married to a wonderful guy, I might add. But she said, "Mom, I don't fear losing a job because I don't have many responsibilities. I have no kids, and this allows me the freedom to try new things without a long-term commitment." We both laughed. However, I couldn't help but think, hey, there's a high level of logic here. I guess I did an awesome job raising her, better than I thought. She gets to be free to try new things without a long-term commitment. I think that's awesome. Today, I'd like to introduce you to my daughter, Brittanee Soutas. She's Senior Product Manager for Experian Credit Services. Brittanee, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having me.
So, Brittanee, tell me, how frequently should one change professions and why?
So to speak personally about myself, I find that to keep yourself really relevant in the marketplace, to remain competitive from a perspective of being in the job market, I think it's really important that you don't limit yourself and stay at a job for more than 5 years. I think when people stay at a job for a long period of time, I feel like their skills get limited and their growth becomes stunted to a certain extent. They are kind of within the confines of the same business model, the same business principles, and the only thing that's really changing is kind of the leadership and the vision that's being driven down. But I think to change different professions, give yourself new exposure to different business models, new technologies, working with a variety of different personalities. And I think it's a way to keep yourself fresh and keep yourself relevant in an ever-changing job market.
So do you think position determines how long a person stays? I'm sure in the work environment that you're in, you see various generations within the marketplace. Do you find those that are not in a millennial generation or younger, do you find their skills to be stale?
I've found that people that are a little bit older, it's not that their skills or anything are stale or stagnant. It's just that they're probably less flexible and less adaptable to change and to new ideologies and new methodologies as to how you approach and solve problems in the workplace. And I don't know if it's because, you're just accustomed to doing the same thing. And so you kind of get in a habit and there's like a respect, like, we've been doing it this way for this long and it's been successful up until this point. So why would we want to change it? Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it sort of thing. But I think from my perspective, I think what's important about being able to change career paths is based on needing to not be complacent and constantly keeping yourself competitive and marketable. I think what's interesting about millennials, at least myself personally, is that when I graduated college in 2009 at the height of a lot of economic issues, struggled, as you know, with being unemployed for almost a year. And so I think a lot of people that I've spoken to that's in my age bracket, we're really afraid of being broke or having financial struggles. And so I think the necessity for us to continue to change careers and keep ourselves marketable is because we never want to get into that place where you know, the economy is almost turning against us in a way. But I think it's really more so about keeping your skills fresh, continuing to work in different markets, being exposed to different technologies, different business sets. I think that's really critical in kind of rounding yourself off, keeping yourself marketable. And I think staying at one company can be limiting.
So are you perfecting your skills by changing different jobs, or are you changing fields?
Yeah. So personally, I've worked in two different industries. I think they complement each other really well. So the transition between the two industries weren't difficult. But what I found in even talking with HR professionals is that when they're HR professionals as well as recruiters, when they're combing through resumes, because as you know, the market is really saturated. So they're trying to find very particular things to kind of weed you out of the group. And they told me that when they see that someone's worked at a place for a very long time, they're a little bit more reluctant to pursue someone who's been at a certain job for a long period of time. It can allude to not having the flexibility that's necessary. I think staying within the same industry is helpful, but I think to continue to grow your skills, having business-to-business exposure, having direct-to-consumer exposure, working in public sector, working in private sector, I mean, it's only going to make your resume look better. It's only going to make you that much sharper to say that you've worked across a variety of different kind of organizations, across a variety of different business models. So you can go into a new business, and even though you may not be very keen on that particular industry, you can still jump in and be an asset to the company. So I think moving careers and changing different industries, I think it's really up to the person.
What advice would you give to a person that had stayed in their profession an extended period of time, that was looking at the market today and looking at how they could fit in? What key things would you think would stand out? When I think of recruiter or someone looking at my resume, I would think, given my years of experience, what would be a deterrent would be my salary, as opposed to a younger person's salary or a millennial salary compared to I think salary would play a role, but what if salary is not the common denominator? What skills do you think that a seasoned professional can add that would make them more desirable to an organization?
One of the beauties of switching positions and being flexible in your career, I find that it actually maximizes your salary potential. When you work at a particular organization, they're going to give you yearly merit raises. If you're on a bonus plan, you'll get your bonus compensation. And if you grow within the company, they're going to continue to incrementally raise you. It's not going to be nearly as substantial as if they were coming off the street. The company already has you. They already know that you work there. So they're not doing a whole lot as far as financial compensation to make sure that you stay. So I would argue that your salary potential would increase and be maximized when you continue to pursue other opportunities. So that's one part. I think for people who have been at a particular role at a particular company, I think to showing growth in your resume is really critical. If you've been promoted, to show that growth on your resume. If you've moved around to different parts of the business, so maybe your business is comprised perhaps of multiple business units, or you've worked cross-functionally in different areas of the business, that could be really beneficial to show. Also, how are you refining your skills? Are you certified in anything? Are you reading any new materials? Are you involved in any extracurricular professional networks and programs? How are you still keeping yourself fresh? Because that's really important. you don't want to seem like you stayed at your job because you're comfortable. You want to convey that you stayed at your job because you're showing steady growth. They are investing in you, and that you like the company and the vision overall.
So, Brittany, is there a difference between a job and a profession or a career?
Absolutely. A career is longer term. It's something that you've either invested from an education perspective, a trade perspective. It's something that you plan to kind of utilize and continue to grow and mature those skills and foster those skills over time. And that's kind of like what your aspiration is. A job is for the purpose of, making sure that it secures your livelihood, that you can, maintain the lifestyle that you want to live. But it should also fulfill you in some sort of way. I don't live in a dream world where, I should love my job and it should be like, I should be so passionate about it. But there should be aspects about my job that I do really like. And as the individual, I think as the employee, you are the talent. The company thrives and does really well because of the employees that they hire. And so you always have to be cognizant of the fact that because you're the talent, that you always have to keep yourself at the forefront. Businesses change frequently depending upon depending upon leadership, right? Mm-hmm. And so things can change as a result of that, like people downstream, right? And so I think as long as you're looking out for yourself, regardless of what happens from a business perspective, then you're always still marketable. You can still go somewhere else in the event anything happens, because the employee is what drives the business. That like the employees are who execute on the vision, and so without the execution, there is no business. And so, and I think as long as it's clear to you the role that you play in that, and if you're able to articulate that when you're pursuing other opportunities, and I think it's always good just to note to always be kind of on. So if recruiters are reaching out to you, or if you see a job that you just think is interesting, or you find an industry that's interesting, apply for it. I mean, and keep your interview skills sharp and continue to stretch yourself is the only thing I'm saying. And if you decide that when you compare other companies to each other, because sometimes it's just the unknown, right? Sometimes you don't know that another company is out there, that another industry you may like. You don't even know because you haven't tried it. And so I think just being open to that and continuing to push yourself and not being complacent is always a good way to be. Because the problem is that when you are in a company for a long time, and let's just say the worst thing happens and layoffs occur or something like that, and you're impacted by that layoff, or your position gets eliminated as an example, now you only have the knowledge that's within that company. So the only other option is for you to go to a competitor, or for you to be brushing up your skills, which you could have been doing while you were at the job. Correct. And all I'm saying is from my approach, and I think from a younger generation's approach, it's like, because we came up in such a difficult time in the economy, the need to always be sharp and to make sure that like we're not in any financial constraints, I think is really critical to our thought process.
I think that's an excellent model. I really do. I think that's a great way to operate. So is there an ideal profession that aligns with an individual's purpose? Or should they attempt to achieve a balanced approach between work and life?
The burden is on the individual for sure, and every person is different. Kind of how they approach success, how they define success, and how they kind of want to pursue their career aspirations, and how far they want to. Some people create their own ceilings. There are some people who, and I admire people that just know absolutely, like, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a lawyer, and they've always wanted that. While other people just really want to work for a really great company that maybe has social awareness, that has a good vision, that's maybe doing something in the community. Other people just want the traditional kind of 9-to-5 so that they can go and enjoy their families and have work-life balance. If you only pick one, and if you never expose yourself to anything else, and even that could even be through networking, that can be through talking to your friends who are in other industries, or doing a day in the life of someone else. I mean, there's a plethora of different ways that you can expose yourself to different industries, markets, business models. You can even read articles and see how different companies are approaching it. You can even take those approaches and take them into your workplace and see.
And apply them and see if they work.
Absolutely. I just think you should always be learning and always continue to challenge yourself, and not expect that the company that you work for to do that. If you're the talent, you should continue to foster and harvest your talent.
I agree. You should be you own your career. Your company does not
Correct.
own your career.
Correct.
So it's up to you to develop yourself to make sure that you yourself being the product presents this best talent across multiple industries.
Absolutely, and I think your analogy to a product is key, because if you're treating your talent and your career as this product, you want to make sure that you're always coming out with new versions of yourself to be to align with the analogy. But I think it's important because a business can decide that you are no longer an asset at any point. And so you always have to be forward thinking and forward looking as to how you want to make sure that you can continue to always be competitive.
Agreed. Brittanee, I thank you so much for being on today's podcast. Your ideas and your mindset is very progressive, and I believe lots of women and professionals will find them beneficial. If you've been thinking of switching careers, but need guidance in making such a life-changing decision, whether you're a millennial, a traditionalist, or somewhere in between, schedule a free consultation with me, and I'll help you create a strategy that will lead you to your desired goal. Visit inyourkorner.com and join me every Wednesday for more tips and tools to help you along your journey. See you next week.